Hi, my name is Jessica Kirchhoff. This past school year, I taught 5th grade at Allendale Christian School, and despite everything with COVID, it was an amazing school year. I took the job knowing it was going to be a one-year placement, and I was so thankful for the opportunity and how much I learned throughout my first year of teaching and how much I grew to love the Allendale community. My mom actually graduated from Allendale High School, and my grandparents have always lived in Allendale, so Allendale has always been a place very near and dear to my heart. I graduated from Grand Valley in April of 2020, and during that school year, I did my teacher assisting and my student teaching in a first grade classroom at Alpine Elementary for Kennewick Hills Public Schools. This was a program that I had to apply and interview for because it was different than the typical Grand Valley education path where you do 2 different placements. So it was cool that I got to be in the same first grade classroom for the whole school year. And I really got to see a lot of personal and academic growth through the students from the first moment when they came into the classroom, still more like kindergartners, and how they got to grow throughout the whole school year and become ready for 2nd grade. So that was an awesome experience. Before that, I had done a lot of subbing for different districts, and I have always known that I wanted to go into teaching. One of my strengths that I have is that I'm very passionate about teaching. And this is something that I realized was very beneficial for me during this past school year with my first year of teaching. On those long winter days where it's hard to find the energy to go to school and be ready for the day, I felt like my passion for teaching really came out still every day, and that's what really kept me motivated, and the students too, through those long days. So that's something that I really try to bring to the classroom with me every day. Another strength that I have is I'm very organized. I love to be planned, I love to be on top of things, and like to have all my ducks in a row. So something that I've always made a goal is to be very prepared for the coming week, and especially the next day, and making sure that I really am prepared and ready to teach every day. A skill that I've learned to have is collaborating with different teachers and different grade level teams. I did that a lot with my last year teaching job at 5th grade at Allendale Christian. I did a lot of collaboration with the other 5th grade teacher. We actually created an initiative about kindness together, so that was really cool to be able to bounce ideas off with that. We came up with lots of different assessment ideas and project ideas, and we constantly were meeting and discussing different ways and ideas for all of our curriculum and making sure that we were very much on the same page. And I taught language arts for both my classroom and his classroom, so we always were making sure that our schedules were lined up so we were able to do that. One weakness that I have that I'm working on is being flexible. And this was something I learned very quickly that I knew I needed to do with my first year of teaching. Not only with just COVID, but lessons and day-to-day things that might not always go exactly how I have planned. Like I had mentioned earlier, I'm very organized and love to have things ready, but sometimes things don't go perfectly. So being flexible is something that I really learned to do. For example, I had a lesson last school year that was all ready and I thought it was going to be perfect, and something that came up was the technology on the students' Chromebooks. They didn't allow them to go onto the website that I wanted them to, but I had to think and be very flexible with how I wanted to make those lessons still work, and it ended up turning out okay. I also had to be flexible with everything with COVID, when students are going in and out of quarantine, and making sure that I'm still was meeting every student's needs and making sure that they were still getting the work that they needed. I'm really not afraid to ask questions. I'm someone who has always been wanting to just always know what I'm curious about, and if I ever have a question, I really think it's very beneficial to go to any team members or grade level members, mentor teachers, people like that, to just be honest and ask any questions. I think it's better for us to all be on the same page, and also to ask principal any questions I might have too. If there are any concerns, I think that's another thing to constantly talk to grade level members about, and also suggest new ideas for things that could be changing. To check students' learning, I think the two biggest things are assessments and observations. I used a lot of observation during my past year of teaching and student teaching with walking around the classroom, making sure that students are focused and kind of taking note of how students are doing individually and in group work, things like that. I also really like to do self-checks. Something that I did with first grade a lot was having them do a thumbs up or a thumbs down with how they felt about their learning, and then also the 1, 2, and 3 scale. So a 1 is if they feel like they need some more practice, a 2 is if they feel okay about what they're learning, and then a 3 is if they feel great and could teach another person in the class. So having that check with students and they could just do it right in front of them so other students don't see is awesome as a teacher to be able to evaluate what students are feeling about what they're learning too, and not just how they're learning it. I really got a lot of use of assessments with 5th grade and 1st grade, and creating those formative assessments or doing quick checks with like exit slips. I felt like was very beneficial just on a day-to-day basis to see how students were feeling after each lesson. If students weren't meeting the criteria, then I would reevaluate what I was teaching them, and then if needed, work with those students individually or with a small group, or if needed, with the whole class. So I think it's really important to have learning targets and success criteria posted in the classroom so that students can see what they're learning that day and what the success criteria is. So when they know that they are going to be successful, it would be when they're meeting those steps. So having that posted helps students know, and when you talk about it, then they might feel a little bit better about what they're learning too. So I feel like those are all very important steps in the learning process. So thank you so much for listening and watching this video. I hope to hear from you soon. Bye.